I want to go through 3 perfect playoff scenarios for our 3 big conferences that we've been talking about. I hate to exclude the ACC. Their tiebreakers are all over the place. The committee's not loving their teams. I don't think they have a path to get more than a couple in. But for the conferences that have the chance to get more than 2 teams in the playoff, I want to break that down for you, starting with the SEC. So first, let's go through what would be required for their dream scenario. You would need Alabama winning out, including the SEC championship game, with Georgia winning out the regular season and playing them potentially in the title game, or sitting it out if they play Texas A&M. I won't pretend to know how that tiebreaker works. But you would also need Vanderbilt winning out, Oklahoma winning out, Texas winning out, including that win against Texas A&M. That's going to be critical, as well as Notre Dame losing one of their last 2 games. They don't need to. This scenario could work if Notre Dame wins. But if Notre Dame loses, this scenario gets some real steam. Ole Miss, you want to win out, obviously. You want Miami to lose once. You want Texas Tech to win out. You want Utah to lose once. You need BYU to lose to Cincinnati or really get destroyed in the conference title game. And then you need Oregon to lose out and USC to lose a rivalry game to UCLA. What does that do? It sets you up so that Oregon has 3 losses. USC has 3 losses. Utah and BYU have 3 losses. Notre Dame has 3 losses. And what did I say earlier in the show? If this is a contest between 3 lost teams, Texas is in. In this scenario, you get 7, count them, 7 SEC teams into the playoff, starting with Alabama winning the SEC title, getting the 3 seed, because in this scenario that I gamed out, if Texas Tech winning out, they get a bye because they would be 1 loss. But you'd have Alabama getting in at the 3 seed. You'd have Texas A&M at the 5, Georgia at the 6, Ole Miss at the 7, Texas at the 8 as a 3-loss team ahead of Oklahoma and Vanderbilt because they beat them both at the 9 and the 10. And then you just round out with your ACC and your American champion. I cannot believe that we're halfway through November and there is still technically a chance that the SEC could get 7 teams into the playoff.
The SEC is better this year than last year. Last year, all the 3-loss teams, clearly there was an argument to leave them out, and it was justified. But I was looking at the same picture, Spencer, and these 3-loss teams have quality wins and would have quality wins. And I mean, I'm not an SEC homer, but yes, wow, the uproar that would go through the country if they did get 7 playoff teams in.
Yeah, and I do think actually you might need Notre Dame to lose to make this happen, because a 3-loss Texas might get in over a 2-loss Notre Dame, but I don't think a 2-loss Vanderbilt would, because Notre Dame's 2 losses would be better. I don't know that a 2-loss Oklahoma, well, they've got that win against Alabama, so I don't know. It depends on where the committee ranks these. We haven't even seen the November 18th committee rankings when we put this together, but this would be a dream scenario for the SEC. Our next conference we want to take a look at is the Big Ten. The dream scenario of the Big Ten would happen if Alabama loses to Auburn. They've got 3 losses, they're out. Texas A&M wins out, they knock Texas clean out of contention. Vanderbilt loses to Tennessee, and Oklahoma drops one of their last 2 games to LSU or Missouri. You want Ole Miss to win out. You gotta separate the cream from the rest of the SEC. You gotta keep Texas A&M and Ole Miss, and you gotta get other teams to lose out. And then you gotta have some things fall your way in the Big Ten. You need USC to win out, you need Michigan to win out, and you need Oregon's only loss to be against USC. You need a little bit of chaos in the Big 12 to keep you from having to go up against like an 11-2 BYU. And then you end up with this playoff picture where you have Ohio State and Indiana getting byes. And then you've got USC coming in as the 6th seed, Michigan coming in as the 8th seed hosting Notre Dame, and Oregon still making it in as the last team in before your conference champion qualifiers from the ACC and the American. Not only is it a possibility, this is way more likely than the SEC one we just went through. Now there's SEC, obviously you can see here, still managed to get 3 teams into the playoff, 2 of them hosting. So the SEC is still in good shape, but the Big Ten could very realistically get 4 teams in. All right, last one that we're going to go through here is the Big 12. The Big 12, this one gets a little bit crazy. This is the biggest stretch of the lot. But if you have some of those same things happen in the SEC, where you have teams like Alabama, Oklahoma, and Vanderbilt drop games, if you have Miami lose once, so they become a 3-loss team, you've got Houston winning out. That's important. They stay a 2-loss team, they win out, and they would need to win out in dominant fashion. And then finally, you would need to have BYU win the Big 12 title, beating Texas Tech in a rematch, and Oregon and USC losing enough so they're both 3-loss teams. The stretchiest of stretch scenarios for the Big 12 is that they could get 4 teams into the playoff. This one, I'd put it like a 0.05% chance of happening. But how wild would it be if you have BYU as a 12-1 conference champion? They'd probably get the 5 seed behind the SEC and Big Ten champs and runner-ups. Ole Miss at the 6. Then you've got Texas Tech, 12-1 Big 12 runner-up, or 11-2 Big 12 runner-up at the 7. And then you'd have Utah in playing Notre Dame, both of those 2-loss teams, just keeping them ranked where they are right now relative to each other. And then you'd have Houston slip in among the G5 champ and the ACC champ. That would be a dream scenario for the Big 12 happen. But even if you don't include Houston, just having BYU, Texas Tech, and Utah all win out, and then BYU beat Texas Tech in the title game, puts the Big 12 in a really good position to get 3 teams in the playoffs.
Yeah, you're right. This is probably a less than 1% chance of happening. Looking at the scenario, the Big 12 has 4 teams and the SEC has 3 teams.
Yep.
See Utah play at Notre Dame.
That
I would love to see it.
Oh,
Sign me up every day of the week for that game. That would be defense on defense. Marcus Freeman. Oh, mama. Kyle Whittingham. That would be incredible.
Bird Ficklin.
Bird is the word. Gee whiz. This is cool. The fact that this is also a possibility. Mind blowing. It's cool.
Right. And like, take Houston out of it though. Of the 3 scenarios, like SEC, 6 teams, 5 teams, those ones would be about on par in likelihood, in my opinion, of Big 12 getting 3 teams in. I mean, Utah is knocking on the door. Utah and BYU are probably going to come in at like 11 and 12 in their rankings this week. They just need a couple of teams ahead of them to slip out. And then if Utah can get into the top 10, they're in, because they would be a top 10 team. You're probably not getting passed by any conference champions behind you, because you'd have 3 conference champions ahead of you, because BYU, Texas Tech, one of those would be ahead of you. You'd have the Big Ten and the SEC champion ahead of you no matter what, right? All 6 of those teams playing in those games would be ranked ahead of you already. So what, the ACC champion is going to bounce you out, is going to send you down? If you're already ahead of Miami, who it doesn't make the ACC title game, who's going to knock Utah out of the playoffs if they get into the top 10 before the end of the season?